Good evening. Welcome to the Kelly Wright Show on the Black News Channel, where we're always striving to provide you with the illuminated truth. Your top headlines of the day in just a moment. But first, some opening observations about race and politics. The Nevada caucuses are taking place this Saturday, and the candidates vying for the Democrat Party's presidential nomination are crisscrossing the state, trying to appeal to all voters. But in the wake of Iowa and New Hampshire, the candidates are scrambling for the support of African American voters now. Former Vice President Joe Biden says he is confident he needs black voters to ignite momentum in his campaign. Billionaire candidate Tom Steyer is aggressively courting black voters as well. And then there's Michael Bloomberg, who is doing the same thing. However, Bloomberg's critics claim he is not actually courting black voters, but trying to buy their vote. Columnist Charles Blow writes in today's New York Times, "It is truly a devastating sight to watch liberals who have winced for years at Donald Trump's issues on wealth, race, and women allow fear, propaganda, and influence mercenaries to push them into supporting a man who has his own issues concerning wealth, women, and race." President Donald Trump is even courting the black vote. You may recall how he ran a Super Bowl ad that promotes how he is making the criminal justice system more fair and equitable for blacks, and how he is championing education and jobs for people of color. And then there's the number of blacks he invited to his State of the Union address. The president also trumpeted permanent investments in historically black colleges and universities, opportunity zones, and low black unemployment. So it's clear that both sides are proactively seeking the black vote. And now all of this raises the awareness of how critical black voters are. However, political leaders must understand this. There is still a nagging question that remains through all of this, and that question is, when will we all truly get along? What are the strategies and steps for us to take to come together beyond race and color? You see, in my America, my children are black and white, one shade of beautiful, yet perfect in God's sight. In my America, we are a family, agreeing to disagree, but choosing to live in harmony. Ultimately, that is what the candidates and all of us, all colors, all creeds, and gender, must come together as one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, those are my opening remarks. And now, let's take a look at some of the day's top stories. Presidential candidate and former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg is making a direct appeal to African American voters. Bloomberg has launched Mike for Black America to try to engage African American voters and to focus attention on issues important to the black community.
Let me make it clear. As President of the United States, I will work to dismantle systems that are plagued by bias and discrimination. I will invest in the communities that have borne the brunt of those systems for generations, and I will put this work at the very top of our agenda.
Bloomberg continues to climb in the polls and has qualified for Wednesday night's debate in Nevada. The National Association of Federal Judges is calling for an emergency meeting because of recent White House actions. Due to President Trump's stance regarding Roger Stone's prison sentencing, over 1,000 independent federal judges say they can't wait and need to take action now on the deepening crisis. Meanwhile, more than 2,000 former DOJ officials are calling for Attorney General Barr to resign. The effects of the coronavirus may begin to hurt the economy. Apple, one of the largest companies in the world, just announced that due to production slowdowns in China, it may have lower revenues than expected. Most smartphones are made in China, and companies are struggling to get back to regular production levels due to the massive outbreak of the virus in that country. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos has committed to spending $10 billion to fight climate change. The massive e-commerce company has a big imprint in worldwide emissions, but Bezos says he is committed to funding work by scientists, activists, and nonprofits to save the planet. Amazon has faced protests from environmental activists and its own employees to take action on climate change. And that's a look at your headlines. We'll be right back after this. The 2020 primary season is well underway now. Iowa caucuses are over, along with the New Hampshire primary, and early voting is currently underway in Nevada. They'll hold their caucus this Saturday. This is the first test for the candidates in a state that is not predominantly white. We have two astute political analysts joining me now to share their insights about the campaign. Welcome Malik Abdul and Douglas Sloan.
Thanks for having me. Thanks,
gentlemen, one and all, welcome to the program, and let's talk about this Nevada caucus. Doug, let's start with you. How do you see it shaping up? Is this one where we might see Joe Biden try to gain some momentum because he has minorities or people of color that he can reach out to?
Absolutely. I envision that Joe Biden will have a great rebound in Nevada and South Carolina, where we see states that are much more reflective of the electorate of the Democratic Party.
Another big name in this that's constantly emerging is Mike Bloomberg. Malik, looking at it from your side of the aisle, how do Republicans see any potential threat from Mike Bloomberg? Because then you have a billionaire going against another billionaire if he were to go on to win the Democrat presidential nomination.
So it's an interesting dynamic what we have now. So Bloomberg entering the race, this is something that people have kind of talked about for a while now. What will be interesting for me, just as a strategist, is to see how well he actually performs. Understand that he qualified for the next debate,
which will be big news.
Yeah,
all three of us have to agree to that.
Yeah, which will be interesting considering how they've now kind of changed the rules a bit to see which you could argue to accommodate Bloomberg. But one of the things that Bloomberg is doing now, I just saw yesterday that he's launched, I think, a $3.2 million ad buy on black media, which is something that generally does not happen during presidential campaigns. A lot of people are saying, that he's possibly a threat to Donald Trump. I don't see him as a threat. I think just as a strategist, I've already seen the commercials that we would run against Bloomberg simply because of the comments that he's made. I don't know if he, by the time we get to, I don't expect him to do very well in Nevada. I'm really iffy on South Carolina. He's doing a lot. He has a lot, the mayor in D.C., she's supporting him. He's getting a lot of support from black leaders all around the country, but I'm just not convinced that that's actually going to translate into votes for Bloomberg. We'll see what happens, but at this point, this will be a test of money in politics.
Doug?
I don't think he's on the ballot in Nevada and South Carolina.
Bloomberg
is not on the ballot until Super Tuesday, but he will be on the debate stage tomorrow, which is very important. They did make an accommodation for Bloomberg, but it may not work to his advantage. Bloomberg is known at not being good at retail politics. And, he has all he does. He has all of this baggage from when he was mayor of New York for 12 years. That does not stop and frisk, all of these sexual assault suits, having Muslims under surveillance. So there's a lot of skeletons in this guy's closet. I mean, we're talking graveyard-sized skeletons.
And the more he gets into the race,
the more it will come out. Absolutely.
As we're seeing that
and
now.
So tonight is a time where tomorrow night will be a time where the other candidates get to take their shots at this rising star.
The gloves will be off.
Absolutely. So he won't be able to kind of hide behind these ads and create his own narrative. Now he will be challenged on his record, which is what needs to happen in these primaries.
Absolutely.
Candidates must be vetted. So this will be a great opportunity to see how he performs.
Well, speaking about candidates being vetted, one could arguably say that President Trump, who's the incumbent, does not have to be vetted, and yet people are still vetting him because of the tweets that he makes. Yeah. And where do you see the Democrats in terms of looking at President Donald Trump? How would they find the right candidate to go against him?
Well, we have our pool. That's one of the issues that we face with having the early two primaries happen in states that are not necessarily reflective of the Democratic electorate. Now the field has been winnowed, and the candidates of color are no longer in the race.
Do you think President Trump has done an effective job of reaching out to African Americans to court their vote and get their vote?
Absolutely not. I don't see, maybe you can show me where he's done that. Absolutely not. I think it's 8 out of 10 African Americans view him as being racist. 9 out of 10 give him a poor job performance rating. So no, I don't see him coming for the black vote. Even when he first ran for office, before, everything that's transpired over the last 3.5 years, he only got 8% of the black vote. And so I imagine that that's going to continue to drop, and it's a matter of, will the Democrats put forward a candidate, will we put forward a candidate that can bring that critical mass out?
Yeah, he's
that
got a strong
Obama-type
base.
vote or that Bill Clinton-type vote. That is what
I
needs to
understand your
happen.
point. Malik, to his point, he's right. If there's a candidate out there who can generate those kinds of numbers that President Barack Obama had generated during his terms in office, that would cause some consternation and trouble for President Donald Trump. His electability right now among black voters is what in terms of those who are members of the GOP?
So I think that yes, in 2008, it was John McCain got 4% of the black vote. I think Mitt Romney had 6% or something like that, and then Donald Trump was able to get 8% of the vote.
Running against Hillary, not against Obama.
Yeah, but those numbers exist. So we have to acknowledge that, you know, about 90% of, almost 90% of blacks vote Democrat in presidential elections.
Right.
So Donald Trump is already starting and in the negative on that. But one of the things that I will say, as far as his outreach to the black community, I think we kind of have, there should be a different conversation. And what I like to talk about is the progress made.
Got to get to it because I got to go.
I'm
but
sorry,
tell
go
me
ahead.
what the point is real quickly.
Yeah, well, I think that Donald Trump, as far as his outreach, Donald Trump's problem is his personality. It's his messaging. It's his tweets. It's not necessarily his policy.
One could argue that it's also his base.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll continue to follow the details. More on that, gentlemen. You have to come back. We can talk more about this. Come back tomorrow. We'll wrap up the debate as well.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Doug and Malik, thank you so much for joining us on the Kelly Wright Show.
Thank you.
When we return, insights from Dr. Benjamin Chavis. We'll be right back. Back now with more on race and politics. On numerous occasions, all of the candidates have made statements or taken positions that are not necessarily in the best interest of Black America. Dr. Benjamin Chavis is here now to break this all down for us. You know, we see, first of all, welcome, Dr. Chavis.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You know, we see how blacks are often courted during campaigns for people getting into office. But then after the campaign, after the dust settles, we don't see enough activity going on in those communities to help them.
Right. Well, I think there's a growing recognition that the black vote is determinative, not only in national politics, but also congressional races as well as statewide races and local races. You know, I'm on my way to Nevada also, not just to observe the presidential debate, but I'm going there on behalf of the Black Press of America, the NMPA, and we're going to be having some interaction, which I'll
With the
report
candidates.
to
I'm
with some of
looking
the
forward to your
candidates.
report on that.
Because we want to press some of the issues that affect the quality of life of Black America. There are 50 million plus African Americans in the United States. We're spread all over the United States. And what most people don't focus on, Kelly, there's a sizable Black community in Nevada.
Absolutely.
In Las Vegas and Henderson, Nevada, and other places. So the vote on this caucus that's coming up in Nevada, Black people are going to weigh in a heavy way.
And they're weighing in right now because they're actually examining every candidate, and they're basically stating what they want from each candidate. Is there one particular candidate that you see now who may have some traction with the Black community and perhaps gain momentum as the campaign goes on?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm going to give you a factual answer based on what I'm hearing from my publishers, what I'm hearing from Black America. Certainly, Vice President Joe Biden has traction. Bernie Sanders has traction. Bloomberg is gaining traction in the Black community, and so is Tom Steyer. So you really have a four-way race, and that's not to ignore Elizabeth Warren or Gorbachev. I think that what we see now is that there's a vying for the Black vote, which I think is healthy.
Right.
I don't think the divisiveness. I think whoever gets the Democratic nomination, I think you're going to see unity in the party. And of course, we know who the Republican candidate will be President Trump. And I have to tell you that the Republicans are also reaching out to Black America. So this is going to be an interesting, pivotal year, 2020, First, we got to make sure everybody's counted in the census, and second, we got to have the largest black voter turnout in American history. I'm predicting that in 2020.
That's a good prediction, and one that will likely ring true because so many black Americans are very sensitive to what's going on. They're worried about the future. They set out during the last election, and some of them have regrets about that. In fact, quite a few of them have regrets about that. So to your point, your assertion or your prediction might be true. Before I let you go, let's get beyond politics for a moment, and let's talk about the entire race issue, because you were there at 14 marching with Dr. King. And throughout your life, your Wilmington 10, you've seen the racial litmus test. And a lot of times in black America, we fail to meet, or the majority fails to meet the minority. What do we do to bridge this divide?
Well, that's another very good question, Kelly. I think that let's look at a long view. Over the last 50 years, the racial divide has closed, but it's still there. And I think those that will ignore the racial divide do it at their own peril. I think that we need to work more comprehensively to talk about racial matters before there's a racial incident. We tend to be reactive to race. I think we should be much more proactive about race in politics, race in economics, race in sociology, race in wealth building in our community. Reverend William Barber is reminding everybody now with his Poor People's Campaign that poverty, we have over 100 million Americans in poverty in America in 2020. And we got to do something about that. So I want to go back to your original bridging the divide. You know what my hope is? These millennials. Young people are less prejudiced than their parents or their grandparents. I'm very hopeful that we will live in an America where there will no longer be a racial divide. We're not there yet, but we're striving to get to that place. That was what Dr. King talked about, the beloved community, where everybody loves one another and not let race or poverty or some other characteristic make it so that you are susceptible to oppression, to violence, to injustice. Mass incarceration. The only reason why we got all these people disproportionately in prison in America is also a race factor.
We can get beyond it. Dr. Ben Chavis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I welcome your coming back from Nevada. Have a good time out there.
Thank
God
you.
Bless you.
God bless.
Right. Back with more after this. Welcome back. It can be hard for young people of color entering the business world. Quite often the deck is stacked against them. Former Group Vice President of Global Quality and New Model Launch for Ford Motor Company, Benny Fowler, is committed to making sure that young people in the business world have mentors and access to opportunities, and he's dedicating his life to that goal. Benny, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, before I get into what you're doing for the young people of America today, let me ask you where it all started for you.
Well, I grew up in Augusta, Georgia in the mid-50s, 1956, so I'm dating myself a little bit here. And grew up in the housing projects in Augusta, Georgia, and went to elementary school at a low school called Ursula Collins, and went on to T.W. Josie High, and then ultimately I went to my undergrad at Central State University. So kind of just a little run through of kind of how things started with me.
It's an amazing journey that you've had to make it to the top of your profession. And as you were making it up that ladder to success, what are some of the things that you had to do so that you now pass it on to young people to perhaps follow or emulate your footsteps?
Well, the big thing is, by 20 years old, you really have to know something. And for me, it started with the spiritual base and the spiritual background. My parents made sure that I went to church on Sunday, not every Sunday, but enough to kind of establish
to have it ingrained in you.
To have the spiritual core, which I think is really the essence of what you're going to have, because life is filled with challenges and really is going to boil down to your beliefs and the core essence of who you are. Education is an important part of it,
And my parents stressed education and becoming educated. And obviously for me, being a part of sports, I think there's a lot of values that you learn from sports, the competition, the preparation, the grind of if you really want to be great at any of this, it's really about the work and the preparation you put in.
So it's all about the work ethic and that whole person concept, mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
And then you played basketball? Is that what you did in school?
I played basketball and baseball. I was in the
wow.
marching band.
Yeah.
I was an editor of a newspaper staff when I was growing up in school. So I kind of had a well-rounded background in terms of growing up, and all of these pieces is really about when you get to a certain start, it's about the story you can put together, because when you come out of school, you really don't have a lot of work experience.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's really what your grade point average is, or were you involved in it, and what are the things that you actually learn and you're able to contribute to a business and getting started.
So Benny, take us through what you do for young people today, especially our young, gifted, and black children and our youth who aspire to greatness, yet they don't always know how to get there. How do you help them build that roadmap?
Well, I ran a youth organization called Power Stroke Athletics, and at one time I did that for about 15 years, and the basis of it was the mental, physical, and spiritual aspects, as you talked about mind, body, and soul, but we called it mental, physical, and spiritual. Mental meaning focus, the spiritual meaning belief in yourself, believe in your teammates, believe in your coaches, and the aspects for that were the basic foundation of what we did. We expected kids to be on time, and we talked to them about the reason for that. We wanted them to talk to us about what they learned, and after practice every day, we would have one of the kids, whether they were 6, 7, or 8, start to do public speaking, so to speak.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
at the end of it, one of the kids would have to be designated, and then some would raise their hand, and if not, one of the coaches would volunteer someone to speak. And what was important about that is having these kids really grow the fundamental beliefs in themselves. The competition and how we put them through the training was not easy. It was a little bit different than just rolling the balls
So
out.
it's rigorous.
It was a rigorous curriculum that we put the kids through. And then it was always amazing to me to see some of these 6, 7, 8-year-old kids as they went into 13 and 14 go from crying and being afraid to speak to basically raising their hand and say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you today.
So you caught them at the right time, Benny. You caught them in their early years, which paves the way for their adolescence. Yes. And then goes on to pave the way for their collegiate years and young adult years. Now, for those of us who have grown up like that, we sometimes make mistakes. How do you get them back on track if they make a mistake and feel like they can't get over that? I always believe that you can always have a comeback.
Right. Well, I often talk to kids about when you go through life, it's not going to be perfect, and there are going to be challenges in the road, and you may have some failure. But the key point is you can't give up. You have to learn from the successes, and you have to learn from the failures, and both have important lessons that you can learn, things that you could build on if they helped you succeed, and the lessons to be learned when you really go through the adversity, and then you try to figure out what were the challenges there, and how do you keep moving on. And I can't say that everything that I did was perfect, because I ended up having to leave a couple of companies to start off with. I started off as an intern at GM. I went on to get my graduate work at Indiana. I spent about 5 years at Chrysler, and then I went on to a 27-year career at Ford.
Wow.
And
Wow.
within side of that, the one thing that I would say to everyone is every time you make these changes, you don't know how it's going to come out. So you have to take that chance. You have to take the leap, and you have to move forward.
Take the risk.
And I call them risk at the time, but every one of these moves seem to be scary, because if you have a job and it's paying good, some people say, well, you're crazy to leave that because you have a job. But in the end, if someone is saying to you, you need these credentials in order for you to move forward, either you listen to it and prepare for that to move forward, and that's really what I try to convey to everyone.
So Benny, let me ask you a question then. A young African American male and female, they make it into corporate America. How do they climb the ladder of success? Do you have a program to help teach them and mentor them on that strategy?
Yes, since I've been out the last 2 years, I've spent some time working on Chief Operating Officers Academy.
So it's called C-suite, as I understand it?
No, it's just kind of, it is part of being in the C-suite, but a Chief Operating Officer is like the number 2 in a company. And it has a lot of responsibility around making the assets more productive, making the people more productive, and helping create value. So the big thing learning for me is every step of the way, you're going to have very challenging assignments that form the basis of your abilities to say, if there's only one person that's going to go into the sweet seat, it would be me. So if you look at the series of assignments I've had, and probably the last 8 or 9 at Ford were assignments that were growing in levels of responsibility moving forward. And for me, there's a basic set of operating principles that help define, or when I go into an operation, help deliver success. It's not guaranteed, but what you try to do is, just like writing a playbook, you really try to capture the essence of what's going on, and these are the things that I'm working to share with people of color and anyone that would like to take advantage of it. And that's really what I'm working on today.
Benny, thank you. Keep doing it. Keep helping the young people. I appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks so much for joining us on the Kelly Wright Show. You're a blessing to a lot of young people in America, and you made it to the top of the profession. And welcome back. Cleo Minago has created a pathway for the success of African American men and women as the CEO and founder of Amasi Centers for Black Wellness and Culture. He also created the Black Men's Exchange National, a human rights and advocacy organization for the defense of African American males and families. Joining me now is Dr. Minago. Sir, welcome to the Kelly Wright Show.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me.
So your organization reaches out to do what for black men and their families?
Well, my background is behavioral health, or I'm a behaviorist, if you will. And there's a lot of things that have occurred in our time in this country, racism and other things, which I won't get into right now, but that we're all familiar with, that has over time affected how black people see themselves. Even when you're a brilliant, intellectually capable black person, if you're in doubt around your self-worth, in your self-concept, which a lot of us are because of these different influences, it can impact your ability to be successful and to be motivated to take care of yourself and your community. There's a lot of us who back off from those kinds of things because we're in survival mode, or we're doubting our worth because of these messages that I might talk about in a moment. And my work helps us to decode and recognize negative implications around being black that are in the landscape of the United States and Western culture.
That is very much needed in our African American culture because of the traditions of the racism that we have been exposed to, and the self-doubt that sometimes accompanies that. So break down for me, if you will, your program and how you break all of that down so that one comes to really understanding who they are.
Okay, well, inside of black culture, there are terminologies and passages that imply that being black is a negative. For example, you may have heard people say, well, when you go to school or when you get a job, you got to be twice as good as the white man. You've heard that before, right?
I hear it all the time.
Now, what's missing from that is that there's something corrupt about the system, not you. If you give somebody that advice and don't tell them that there's something wrong with the system and not them, they imply that, okay, well, I'm not as good, so now I got to work twice as hard. You got to give them the whole narrative, or else all the other implications in society that black is bad will be reinforced in their psyche. So one of the more powerful mediums, and there's many, and that teaches black people that they're second in line in terms of value, is the media. For example, there's rarely a love story in the media between two black people. You might see a black moment, but you never see a ongoing, reliable narrative in popular culture of black people loving each other. More often than not, these days you'll see black people in biracial situations, but you don't see that many stories about black people loving each other. Well, there's an implication there with black children watch this stuff that, okay, I might want to second guess the idea of loving myself or being loved. So we show people films and movies that are very popular and have them to analyze these films and look at what's missing from them in terms of the messages around black being valuable. And what they find in most films that it's not there.
Well, one of the films that's doing that right now is The Photograph. I just saw it, and it's wonderfully done. It's tasteful, and it shows a couple learning to get together. It shows a black family, and it shows the progress there. So, having said that, it seems that the media at some point is beginning to make a turn. What can we do to make sure that images of us, about us, and for us are reinforced?
Well, we
The
have
positive images.
We have to watch and do everything with intentionality. It's not natural to have to do everything with intentionality, but when you're in a fight for your self-esteem, for there being messages that make you look good so your children can feel good about who they are, we have to actively demand that. You mentioned The Photograph. I haven't seen it, but what's problematic about the situation is that when was the last photograph that you've seen? It's, meaning a film between two black people who love each other. It's extremely rare, and it's 2020. The last most popular one was called Love Jones. I don't know if you remember Love Jones.
I do remember that.
But that was a long, long time ago. So the lack of frequency of black love stories implies that loving each other is problematic.
All right, very good point. So you'll come back on the show and keep giving us updates on your program.
Absolutely.
Dr. Cleo Monago, thanks for joining us. I wish we had more time, but there's a lot going on, and we do want to talk about the power of black people loving each other.
And I look forward to having those conversations. It is a lot to talk about.
Thanks for joining us on the Kelly Wright Show.
Thank you.
Coming up, a lot more. Stay tuned. Wait until you feel the energy of my next guest. She is a two-time stage 4 cancer survivor, author and business coach. Bershawn Shaw summoned her inner courage and faith to conquer the impossible, and she is now using that courage to help entrepreneurs unleash their inner warrior to push past obstacles and excel in business. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know, your energy is just through the roof, and it's actually contagious and infectious.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Look, I'm alive. I always say that. I am here, and I'm here with a purpose. So I'm living out my purpose, and every day I'm grateful and thankful.
All right, because
Yes.
life is short, right?
Life is short. I mean, my story, 12 years ago, I didn't think I would be here. Sitting with you, sitting anywhere. I thought I was going to be down under, but until I changed my mindset and I told myself, I am not going to die. I'm going to live.
So you willed it.
I willed it and I did the work. You have to do the work, and that's what I teach entrepreneurs, people that I coach all around the world. Do the work.
A lot of people will have the idea, but they don't want to go through the fire of the work.
You're absolutely right. See, people always say, I'll change if something happens. I'll do the work, but you won't. And so I told myself, Bershawn, you have to get busy living or get busy dying. I chose to live. So, right? And that's where my warrior method came out, doing the work for business, for life, for career. And so I did the work for my business.
All right. And what level of faith did you have to get? Because, we hear biblically that you need faith is the small size of a mustard seed and you can move mountains.
Yeah, but I
for you?
believe, good point, I believe in huge faith.
Huge
I mean,
faith.
God is my all in all. I'm here because of God. So my faith in every day, I would do affirmations. Every day I would meditate. Every day I would say, thank you, God. Every day I told myself, if I did something every day, think about if you do something every day, how your life would change. Every day.
Especially when you're telling yourself you can do it.
Yes.
No matter how hard it gets, you can still do it because you have someone greater than you working on the inside to do something better and
Yes.
greater every day.
Every day, something different. Every day I can do it. Every day it's my time. Every day. And that's what I did. And that's how I grew my business all around the world. Because every day I told myself, Bershawn, you can do it.
Now, let's not let that go. You're saying business all around the world. So 12 years ago, you're looking at cancer, the big C.
Yes.
You conquer that, and then you start influencing the entire world. Come on, Brashawn.
I know. Well,
how does that happen?
So let me tell you, literally, I said, if I'm going to live with purpose. What's my purpose? Why did I survive stage 4 breast cancer when I had a 0.2 chance with cancer all over my body? I was here for a purpose. So I started talking about my journey. And it was bigger than cancer. It's what's the cancer that's holding you back from your greatness? What's your cancer? Fear of failure, fear of abandonment. You don't think you're good enough, don't think you're smart enough. It's bigger than me. The cancer, the big C, is your cancer that's been holding you back all of your life.
And the big C could be self-condemnation. You put yourself down because maybe you made a big failure in your life and you feel like you can't bounce back. What do you do when you encounter people like that who are saying, but I can't, I did this and I can't get over it?
And you know what? Stop with the negative self-talk.
There you go.
Stop with the negative self-talk. That's why I have a podcast every week, Buckle Up with Brashawn, telling you to stop with the negative self-talk and buckle up and get yourself together. It's what you tell yourself, what you become. You are what you think, and it's true.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Say that again.
You are what you think. You really are what you think, and you are what you believe.
Yeah.
See, if you believe you'll be successful, you really would.
You really will.
But you know that sign when you were a kid, they say, if you think you will fail, you will fail.
You will fail.
If you think you will win, you will win. How many times do the underdogs win in NFL and NBA? Because they believe it.
And they come back from behind.
Look at the Super Bowl.
Look at the Washington Nationals.
Look at the Washington Nationals. I mean, like, they came back from so behind.
Yeah.
But if you have that mindset of thinking you will win, of believing you will win, of willing yourself to win, you will win.
Sean, thank you. You got to come back. 'Cause like I said, I love your energy, and when I was telling our guests, our audience, you got to be prepared for this lady because she is going to lift you up.
Yes.
Please come back and continue to lift us up. And the podcast is called
Buckle Up with Brashawn. You can find it on iTunes, Apple, wherever, iHeart, everywhere. Brashawn is spelled B-E-R-S-H-A-N.
And with all the energy you have, I just have a feeling that as I buckle up, I'll be loosening that strap because I'll be rejoicing and jumping and shouting with some positivity.
Yes, you will.
And
if you
in this
listen to me.
negative world, we need positivity like you're just putting out there right now.
Yes, we do. Totally, we do. Positive affirmations, living a positive life.
Come on.
Thank you.
Love this woman.
Yes.
She's amazing. Back with more on the Kelly Wright Show. And if you're not feeling positive, shame on you. You got a hole in your soul because she brings it. Back with more after this. Everybody loves good comedy because comedy is a special form of art, and my next guest was an early mentor to Dave Chappelle. He travels around the country and the world, for a matter of fact, making audiences laugh. Tony Woods joining us right now. Tony's in the house.
What's up, brother? How you feel
I'm good,
today,
brother.
Kelly?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's good to see you, man.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I feel a little out of place.
Come on.
Because I know it's politics and stuff like that.
This is not about politics.
But
we talked about it today, but this is
Okay.
about life.
Okay, well, that's all I talk about.
That's
is life.
it.
I have no
Bring it.
statistics. I have no years to back it up, but I know what happens.
You've got experiences.
Boom shack.
And your observations as a comedian are very profound. You were right there. Dave Chappelle single-handedly pointed you out when he won the Mark Twain Award.
Yeah, he did. I was there. I felt like I was at the airport and they called my name. Like, yo, man, you better get to gate 6.
So,
You know, you look at somebody and go, did they call my name? They go, I don't know you. Boom. Yeah, he had called my name. So that was good. Thanks, Dave.
so what's Tony's perception of the political campaigns that are going on?
I don't know, man. You know, I heard a lot of people talk about Twitter and all this other stuff. I watch Facebook. People put their heart on Facebook. You know that, right?
I'm one of them.
Yeah, put their heart
I
on
put my
Facebook,
faith
and then
on
all
there.
of a sudden you'll see some guy from history who did this and did that. I'm like, whoa, I know a guy who's doing the same thing right now. And so you go, wow, you know. So I don't deal with the numbers. I deal with what's really going
You're
on.
dealing with the heart of the matter.
The heart of the matter, yes.
And I think that's what we all should strive
And like,
for.
I think I'm the only one who saw through that comment a long time ago when somebody, I'm not gonna say no names, but somebody said, I can go on Fifth Avenue, pow, smoke somebody, and nobody would say nothing.
You're not
And
the
I'm
only
like,
who
who
saw
is that somebody?
Yeah.
I wanted to go, who is that somebody who you could shoot? Willie.
Okay.
That was a
Okay.
random
You
name.
went
I
there.
just-
You went there.
Yeah, my bad. Too late. I got no statistics.
Too late. It's out there.
It's out
It's
there.
okay. It's a fair game here. You're on the Kelly Wright Show, and you're on the Black News Channel, where truth is illuminated, brother. So
what's
bring
up.
it.
I'm with you.
Okay. How do you like the Black News Channel? I know we're just getting out, getting our legs, and the Kelly Wright Show. And look, you're always welcome here as a guest. Become a friend of what we're doing, and bring some jokes. We need some laughter in
I'm
America.
gonna tell you a story, man. I was on another Black News network that I never even heard of. This is in 1988, and a young guy said, "Hey, I produce a show on Black Entertainment Television." I'm like, "Get out here," because I'm like, "There's no such thing." I'm like, "We did that? What?" Like, we just called it Black Entertainment, and then so I'm with it now. So
You're with it now.
with
Okay.
it. I was with it then. I was on the show, but I really thought this guy was just messing with me when he said, "I'm like," because there was no cable in Washington D.C. at the time, and then he
I
called
know you're
me.
talking about. We can
Yeah.
say his name.
Stu Perkins was the producer, but Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson, of
was,
course.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
the actual man of it all.
Yeah, had a chance to meet him several times. So let's talk about how Tony Wood sees the landscape of the world when you're bringing people into your comedy space.
Yeah, because see, a lot of people, they say, well, when you go to Australia and we go to Europe and stuff like that, what do you talk about? I'm like, I talk about kind of the same things, things that are, you know, that bother me and stuff. Like everybody, like speaking of Australia right now, everybody's talking about, oh, the place is burning, a billion animals are dead. But whenever they show you a fire, it's a house. You're like, whoa.
Where are the people?
What, did kangaroos live in that house? And I've been all over Australia, and I know a lot of those places is where the Aboriginal people, the blacks of Australia, and nobody ever said nothing about them. And they keep talking about the animals, and I know the koala bears are high on eucalyptus leaves, and you too high, you like, hey man, you smell smoke? I smell smoke, you smell smoke? So maybe that's why maybe that's why they're getting burned up, because they've said to the kangaroos, where y'all going? The kangaroos say, we're gonna bounce. You know what I'm saying? So, which is it means to leave.
You get me a reason.
yeah.
But that's what you do. You make
that's
people
what I
laugh.
do, yeah.
But out of that laughter and out of that comedic
And the main ingredient in laughter is pain. So ain't no pain in it. You know, you can't go, today me and my wife were in a minivan. Nobody care, right? You know what I'm saying? First of all, y'all got a minivan. You know what I'm saying? What's funny is this dude peed on my wife on the bus. Yeah, so
Ooh,
boom.
he's Tony Wood.
So I'm saying, you got to put the pain in it if you want some funny in it.
You're still performing at Caroline's? Where are you performing
I was
now?
at Caroline's
What's
2
coming up
weeks
next?
ago.
Okay.
The first week of March, I'll be in Amsterdam, in Holland, the Netherlands.
Well, I don't know if I can get over there to see you, Tony. I'm
gonna be in
I love
Ohio this
Amsterdam.
weekend, and I
Okay.
also have a what do you call that thing? A podcast, and it's
Okay.
called the Lonely Ass Bike Club Chronicles, because I ride bicycles, and usually I have to ride by myself.
It's a lonely ride,
It's
yeah.
a lonely ride,
It's a
but
lonely
I talk
ride.
about things. I'm like the Tony Wood Show as Kelly Wright. Yeah, but I'm on my bike, and so now somebody gave me a studio, and I
Okay.
do it like that. And
Tony Woods, man, you got to
Thank
come
you.
back.
I
Much love
want
to
to
you,
come
brother.
back,
Keep
man,
on.
because I got a lot of stuff to say. I have
And
no statistics.
Tell
but
your
I'm telling you, it's all
boy,
true.
tell your boy Dave Chappelle, y'all come on together. I don't know if I can take it.
Well, he's in Europe, and I
Okay.
talked to him this morning, and he says, "I'm gonna come back if they bring you back."
All right, so we'll have you both. There's no if, we will bring you back. You see how he did that? You see, that ain't fair. Anyway, we're coming back with a lot more of my final word after this. My final word is, as you've noted, we look at race and politics, but let's look at the heart of the matter. We really need to look inwardly so that we can learn to live together as brothers. Otherwise, as Dr. King says, we might perish as fools. So this is my song. Take a look around. Peace out. Keep spreading some love, freedom, and peace.
Please show us the way. Let your peace abound on holy ground, and lead us with your guidance.